All right, welcome back to another episode of Paranormal Bad Bitches. Brianna.
And Lydia. Yeah, things have been crazy. That's why I haven't been here recently. But back, and you ain't ready for this.
All right, so the first story we're going to go over is desert camping almost gone wrong. And, might help if I have it loaded, huh? See, I don't think that's going to catch your laugh.
Oh, it's okay. I'll laugh again.
We can't connect more than one mic, so we're sharing one. So we're taking like weird pauses to make sure we get each other's like responses in. But that was the fakest laugh I've ever heard in my life.
We don't gotta talk about it.
Oh god. If this does not show you how tired we are, I don't know what else will. We got our scooters. Are we allowed to show brand names?
Sponsor us.
I got a drink.
She got her drink and I got my agua. Let's go. Yeah.
All right, so with the first story, it's called Desert Camping Almost Gone Wrong. This one is by the Elf at Solitude, and I found this on the subreddit Paranormal Encounters. So let me start by saying that my brother and I are extremely experienced desert campers, and we live near deserts pretty much our entire lives. I have never in my 20 years of life ever for 1 second believed in anything paranormal or anything to do with evil spirits, unlike my brother who has always sensed presences. Is that the right word for that?
I don't know. I feel like the right word would be just
Presence.
presence. Like, you can feel a presence, not sense it.
Yeah, it like really fucked me up trying to read that. I was like, presences. I was like, that doesn't sound right. Anyway, unlike my brother who has always been able to sense presences. That doesn't sound right either. Unlike my brother who has always been able to sense spirits' presence and been able to see mostly what we call jinn. It's spelled D-J-I-N-N. It's just another word for demons. Until last night, which is safe to say marks the last time we'll be camping alone in the desert. Which, first off, I would never go camping in the desert.
For real, I don't know who thinks it's a great idea to go camping in the desert, because it's always dry out there, and like anything can happen. Like if you like say just two people, boom, you could get murdered. No one will ever know.
Yeah, no. And like all the bugs, like scorpions. We always have the same place we like to go when we want to camp with minimum effort. And our day started as normal as ever. But as we got closer and closer to our destination, I saw my brother's mood completely shift. And when I asked what was wrong, he just shrugged me off and told me to keep driving. When we arrived, I felt completely fine, but my brother was still unusually quiet. It was around 1 p.m. at that point, and we were planning on leaving around 12 to 1 a.m. Because of the heat, we made the terrible decision to set up under a few trees and a source of water, which in the Middle Eastern cultures is where jinns live at night, which not that I believed at the time, of course. However, we still set up camp and continued as normal.
Did she know this, like, before they went camping? Or... Huh? He, oh. I thought it was a sister and a brother. Whoops. Keep hitting that.
I mean, it might be. I assumed it was a guy.
I have no idea. I don't know. I feel like even if you don't believe in that, like, why would you still, like, go there?
I don't know, because like, even as like a non-believer, like I was always really skeptical of superstitions, but I still followed them just in case. Like, you know, just covering my own ass, sort of speak. And like, I don't know. I feel like in the desert though, like you'd probably want some sort of shade and a source of water. So I can see why they also settled down there too. Now, my brother always says when he feels a presence, or several in this case, he gets extremely unlucky. First, he almost dropped a box of coal on his foot. Then he spilt the entire bottle of Coke on his phone, and then he dropped it in the sand and proceeded to smash his elbow into the edge of the chair he was sitting on, which is now very swollen. Bruh, talk about bad luck. And last but certainly not least, when he was looking through one of our boxes, he felt something cold and sharp press against his arm, and he realized it was an unsheathed knife, which we packed in its case the previous night before he had later said... Before he had later said it felt like something pushed his hand into it right where all the veins are. I'm pretty sure there's veins like everywhere. I want to know what part of the hand he was talking about. Or if he was talking about like the wrist. Maybe that's just...
dark humor. I don't know. I feel like it was a palm of his hand because, like, if it was his wrist, it wouldn't be his veins. That brother, though, so unlucky. Dropping everything, smashing his elbow into a chair. I could not. And then dumped Coke on his phone.
I think I'd be more upset about that than anything. Like, I would take every beating in the world. But the second I destroy my phone, my life is over. And it's not because I'm addicted to my phone. I have, like, crazy anxiety not having my phone with me. All of these events consecutively within the matter of a few hours were certainly making us both uneasy, and for the life of me I could not figure out why he was suddenly so unlucky. As I was starting to question his clumsiness, a random couple appeared out of nowhere, informing us that they were stuck in the sand and needed help. We drive a Land Cruiser and they had a Nissan Altima. We didn't expect to encounter as many issues as we did. We first dug them out without any issues, but as we pushed them out into the sand, they got stuck again. If you know anything about dune bashing or desert camping, then you understand the physics behind how wheels get stuck in the sand, and the way this Nissan was stuck was incredibly unusual. It was literally stuck somewhere with plenty of space available for grip. Later, my brother said that when we were digging them out of the sand, that's when he really started to feel the evil presence around us. But he didn't want to say anything, not to ruin the trip or freak me out. So we ended up having to tow them out of the sand, which again was far harder than it had to be. First, our tow strap broke off their bumper. Tow straps cost $200, and it was fine, but then their bumper was slightly damaged. We almost got stuck ourselves, and a 20-minute job took more like 90 minutes, which again was extremely unusual, and in hindsight, just the beginning of all the crap to come. When we came back to the camp, we noticed how everything around us had gotten unusually quiet, and the area we were in has hundreds of birds around, and as far as we've seen, 3 cats who sometimes pay us a visit. But there wasn't a single noise at all, other than our fire, which is dying out unusually quickly. It had gotten dark quickly, so we had scrambled to build a fire to cook our dinner, and before we were asked for help from the couple, I had noticed the silence, but it had not bothered me. However, my brother suddenly grabbed my hand as we were sitting down to eat and said, with clear fear in his voice, that we should go as quickly as possible, and that he did not feel safe. To ease both our minds, we prayed. We are Christian, so of course we thought it would help us, but I think it accelerated everything that happened and just made whatever was there with us angry. Would you pray?
I don't know what I exactly do, but I'd definitely get out of there.
Yeah, if you, like, started to tell me that you were, like, uncomfortable and, like, saying, hey, we need to leave as soon as possible, I feel like we probably would have just packed up. Yeah. Like, it wouldn't have been, like, tiptoe around the bush. I've been like, okay, you're uncomfortable, let's go. It wouldn't have gotten to this point that I'm about to read, just so you know. We quickly finished our dinner, and me being a skeptic I was, completely fine and pretty much just humoring my brother, until I started getting the nagging feeling that it was time to pack up and leave. It hit me like a wave, and then I was quite taken back by the feeling, so I voiced it to my brother, and he agreed that we should pack up right away and leave. We started packing up at a normal pace like we were just tired and wanted to leave, and then we heard a sound very close to us on the opposite side of the pond, which wasn't that big, that I could only describe as the sound of death itself. It seemed to go on for several minutes, and when I say we looked at each other with absolute fear, I genuinely mean I was ready to have a heart attack right then and there. At that point, after being frozen for a few minutes, and quite reasonably so, after hearing that bellowing screech so close to us, we turned on the car, drove it back so we could see better with the headlamps, and just started throwing everything into the back of the car without much care, but a whole lot of urgency. And it was like, after the screaming, that's when shit really hit the fan. Okay, I'm going to read this whole next part, and then I'm going to have you give me your input. Because it gets hectic after this. First, it was the sound of twigs snapping and footsteps all around us. Then it was the shadows behind the trees. I tried everything to try and get those shadows to change shape, walking around the trees and moving the lights, but nothing. It looked like there were people just staring at us the whole time, and we could really feel it too. We really felt like we weren't alone, and that we weren't with friendly entities either. We also noticed that all 3 cats were huddled right behind our car, away from the trees, so they were not the ones making the snapping twig noise, but literally did not care if they were going to move. I was getting out of there. Thankfully, they left when we started reversing, but they also looked absolutely terrified and were just staring at the trees as well. It also felt like whatever was there was getting closer, and I have never felt anything like it. It was a gut feeling, and you just know it's one of those natural instincts that you should not ignore. Thankfully, we were able to pack up quickly. Our tent was very close to the trees, though, so that was a nerve-wracking experience. And whilst we were packing, it is still very silent. It is normal for birds around this area to continue making sounds until 2 or 3 in the morning, and at this point it was only about 8 p.m., so it was highly unusual. I personally think it was most terrifying as I was driving away back onto the main dirt path to leave the desert. I know cars very well. I know how they drive on the sand, and I know our car especially well because we've had it for so long, and I could instantly tell the steering was off and completely fighting against me, which fixed itself the second we were on the highway. The sound of twigs snapping was still all around us, and it was loud enough to be heard over the sounds of the car. And on the path, what seemed like every bird in the area was just standing right there in front of us, staring at us, until we got close enough to force them to walk. Not fly, walk away. At one point, my brother just grabbed my shoulder and told me very sternly to just keep looking in front of me and under no circumstances to look out his window. It was the tone of his voice that told me to listen to him for the love of God. We were in a part of the desert where we had pretty much had driven through the whole accessible areas to get into the highway, and there wasn't a single person around us. The only thing we saw was a very clearly abandoned Toyota Hilux, positioned behind a small dune and hidden by the trees, but it was far enough from our campsite to easily be ruled out as the source of the original screech. The worst thing I saw when we were closing to the exit. Now, we know these deserts very well. We've both grown up here, and I've been riding dirt bikes and quad bikes in these deserts since we moved here. And we know the wildlife and what to expect. Cats, birds, spiders, goats, camels, mice, foxes, maybe even the occasional scorpion, or if you're really unlucky, a snake. But that is it. I know. I don't like snakes. There is nothing else in this desert. We saw standing in the middle of the path, staring directly at us, a deer. A goddamn deer. I've only ever seen one deer in 16 years of living here, and that was in someone's garden as a pet. I want a pet deer. It's safe to say I was in complete shock, and the deer was just not moving at all until I got close enough that we could practically smell the thing before it slowly walked up the path while looking at us. We quickly moved past the deer, and again, my brother, with a gasp and very sternly, said to keep my eyes right on the road. I asked him when we got onto the highway what it was that he kept seeing, and he reluctantly told me that he kept seeing large figures around us anytime we went through a bend, and they were either pointing right at us or ahead of us. I'm very glad he didn't tell me that at the time, because I would have been shitting myself. We still were yet to encounter anyone, but we were still very clearly hearing sounds all around us. And again, not the usual bird or cat, but very clearly big and unrelenting. When I saw the exit, I was happy as I've ever been, but that quickly faded when once again we saw yet another deer standing right in the middle of the road, slowly walking away, and looking right at us. Except this time, it didn't really look like a deer, more like a kangaroo mixed with a deer, and its eyes were milky and it looked rotten and horrible. But I didn't much care. I stepped on the gas and fortunately had gotten out of the way in time. Now, when you exit the desert, you can either turn right onto a long stretch of highway, or you can go left, go through a small town, and then take the back streets to a parallel highway. And as I was about to turn right, my brother once again, with the same tone in his voice, said go to the town and then go to the right. Later, he once again said that he saw a line of figures pointing ahead of us, so if we had gone that way, we wouldn't have made it home in one piece. Terrifying. Thankfully, as we made it farther and farther away and close enough to our home, the gut feeling of being washed was going away. And of course, having never experienced something like this before, I was distraught and wanted to talk about it. My brother told me, as we were going home, that because we were alone, the jinn wanted to mess with us and that it wanted to scare us and most likely cause us harm. And that the way they get you in such rural places is to force you to stop and then do whatever they want, which makes sense as to why there were so many animals on our path. He also said that they caused bad luck, and he could feel them the second we entered the desert. First off, I feel like your brother should have communicated this the second you got into the desert. Like, is that not just me? Like, hey, we might be in imminent danger, but I'm just gonna act like nothing's happening.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I feel like if you were to send something bad, be like, that's not settling right. Like, let's just maybe, like, not go there. I don't know. Like, the whole thing is just terrifying. And, like, I'm sorry, but, like, if I was in a desert and I saw a deer just staring right at us, walking away, I'd be like,
Bad juju.
Yeah. Like, just like the animals, like the birds, like not flying but walking away. They're just trying to get in your head, but I don't know. I mean, as long as they're safe now, but that shit's terrifying.
He also said that they caused bad luck, and he could feel them the second we entered the desert, which explains his clumsiness all day and how the car got stuck in such an unusual manner. This is also my younger brother by 3 years, and naturally, any time that he has ever told me about this sort of thing, I always just dismissed it as him scaring himself. Now, I can excuse the sounds we heard and the shadows we saw last night. I can excuse the gut feeling as just being scared, but I cannot excuse 2 deer we saw staring right at us, and I cannot excuse the car just randomly fighting against me as I was driving. The deer completely freaked me out, as did the tone of my brother's voice, and I'm also sorry if this is written sporadically. I'm still shaken up and trying to make sense of everything. And it's safe to say we are not going camping there again. And it's safe to say I am never dismissing my brother when it comes to this kind of thing again. And God, I am so thankful that we made it home safely. I also forgot to mention that as we were setting up our tent, it was fighting us. We would secure it on one end into the ground, and then instantly another end would pop up. And after we finally managed to get it up, as something was pushing it and it collapsed once. But when we got it back up, and again, it looked like something was pushing on it, which is something neither of us has ever experienced before, as we have set up tents in the middle of a sandstorm. This took place in the Liwa Desert in Abu Dhabi.
So personally, like if I was in that situation, I'd probably be freaked out too. But like when they were praying, like that just angers them. You know, like whatever's around you that's not good, it makes them angry. Just the presence of being like a Christian or something. But for me, like I don't necessarily believe in God. Like I believe in light and the good. So, like, I wouldn't necessarily pray, but, like, I'd be like, I'm gonna make it okay, like, I can do it, like, just rush out of there. But, like, what would you do in that situation?
I'm going to assume that I would have been with you in that situation, and we wouldn't have gotten ourselves in that situation. Like, if one of us was feeling off about that, we'd be like, nah, let's go. Like, let's just go somewhere else. But, like, if we got ourselves in that situation... I mean, I personally wouldn't pray, but it's just because I'm not religious, and I think it's disrespectful to do so when you don't believe in that kind of stuff. And maybe that's just me, but that's just my take on it. Now granted, we have holy water, so I probably would have gotten that out if we had it with us. But other than that, knowing my ass, I would have like set up our fucking equipment. But in their position, I probably would have booked it out of there. Yeah. Now the animals, sorry, getting run the fuck over.
Especially snakes. Wouldn't even hesitate because I just hate snakes. They're gross animals. But like, it's super funny when she's like, I would not care if one of those cats did not move. Like, I'd probably cry about that later that I ran over a cat. But in the moment, I'd be like, we gotta get out of here.
I'm not even gonna lie. I probably would have taken the cats with me. I'm like, nah, you don't want to be around the snow either. Let's go. All right, the next one. I have to shower, but I'm dreading it. Now, I've already read this one, but I wanted Lydia to hear it and kind of get her reaction because I don't think she's seen it. Have you? No? Okay. Well, even if she has, we're going to read it again. This one's by Tarnished Fella _24. Hey, Reddit, if it matters, I'm a 24-year-old male. 24-year-old? Did I just say that? What the fuck? Hey Reddit, if it matters, I'm a 24-year-old male, and this all started a few days ago when I was in the shower. I was washing myself when all of a sudden the door slowly swung open. No one entered, so I stepped out of the shower, fists raised and ready to swing at a home intruder, but no one was there. I could see something through the crack of the door, so I yelled at the person to come at me, and that I could see them. And then the door closed. I opened it and nobody was there. I locked the door, went back to my shower, and the knob started rattling and there was banging on the door. So I freaked out, waited for it to subside, and then booked it out of there. My girlfriend and our son were outside the entire time, and no one else was in the house. Fast forward to today. I haven't showered since, but I have to today because I have an infusion for my Crohn's disease and I have to be clean for that. I'm convinced that I'm going to use the guest bathroom, but I have to get my soap and shampoo out of the master bath, and I'm trying to work up the courage to do so. Update. I got my stuff and showered in the guest bathroom, but as I was getting my stuff, I felt a hot, heavy breath on the back of my neck, and I noped out of there. Does that not remind you of Paranormal Activity, like when Hunter was born and like they had a son and now they're suddenly cursed? Because like it came out of nowhere. It started out of nowhere. It only started a few days ago. Yet, what, now they're haunted? For what? What happened?
Are the Paranormal Activities even based on true stories? They are.
These?
No, the Paranormal Activity movies.
Oh, no.
No, okay. Because I was thinking, I'm like, I don't think they are based off, but like, I don't know. That's just so weird. I mean, babies just attract things, I guess. Because I feel like babies, like, have you ever seen the videos of, like, babies, like, the parents, like, will hold them up to the grass and, like, they will refuse to put their feet down or something? No, you haven't seen that? Oh, they know something that we don't know.
About the grass?
Apparently.
What do you mean? What if they just don't like the texture of it?
I'll have to show you the video.
Yeah, you're gonna have to show me that. All right, next one. 2 people who had the same message for me. This one's cool as fuck. This is from a throwaway account. About 5 months ago, I met this lady at an office and we both were waiting, so I started talking to her. We had a long conversation about many different topics, and then she randomly brought up the topic of the occult and the fact that she can sense spirits. She told me, I don't mean to scare you, but I sense there's a little girl spirit that is attached to you. She's about 6 and she really enjoys your company. She's almost protective over you and says that she loves you so much. She's always around you. Now, I have no idea who this could be at all, so I told her I have no idea and brushed it off. Fast forward a month ago, my mom was hospitalized. I bet her name starts with an S.
Like every other girl.
Except for Jackie.
Oh, yeah.
What story was that? Was that
That was,
the ship?
yeah.
Queen Mary?
Yeah.
Fast forward to a month ago, my mom was hospitalized in the ICU, and she was delirious some days. One night she woke and goes, hey, who's that beside you? And I'm like, who? There's no one. And she goes, no, there's a little girl beside you, and she's holding onto your arm. Who is she? I was like, I'm not sure, but what is she saying? And she's like, she's saying that she loves you, and she's holding on to you tightly. She's very protective over you. LOL. And then she falls back asleep. I was so shocked. I got creeped out and had goosebumps. Anyways, I don't know if that was just a coincidence, and I have absolutely no idea who this kid is. Very interesting. I actually don't think that's a coincidence. And I'm a pretty skeptical person of like almost everything. That's too coincidental, in my opinion.
Yeah, and like just like the fact that there we go. That one was 5 months ago, and then the other one was like 4 months after that. Like, that's so weird. Like, even if his mom was delusional, I don't know. It's just, I get goosebumps. I'd be like, not sure if I want a little girl attached to me. Like, cause like, for every little girl, like, that we have, like, researched or done investigations, like, on, it's like a little puppeteer from, like, a evil spirit or just a person trying to draw you in.
This one is so fucking scary. You're not gonna like this one. Quick interruption here. If you like the video, please let us know by liking the video. If you don't like the video, comment down below and tell us why and what we can improve on. And if you're awesome, you'll subscribe and help us grow our community because we are so excited to see where this goes. And we can't wait to keep doing this with you guys. Back to the show. This one is from 1_pay_5133. I don't know what I saw. It's hard for me to explain things through text, so please bear with me, y'all. So I guess I'll start with the story about almost 10 years ago when I was 6 or 7 years old. I stayed, and still do, with my grandparents. They live in a 2-bedroom single trailer with an added-on room. Keep this in mind for later. One day I was asleep, my little sister was in the bed, and my mom stayed over that night, so she also slept in the same bed. All of a sudden, my eyes popped open and my heart started beating fast. I thought I just woke up from a nightmare, and as soon as I sat up, I saw a short shadow thing, and the hall light was on. I saw the thing turn into the room, and its head looked like a sideways lemon, kind of like Stewie. And it was moving its head side to side. Like Stewie's head. It was gliding across the floor to me. I hid under the covers and called my mom. Didn't see it again until I was at my cousin's house. We were in her attic, and all of my younger cousins could see the same shadow thing, except for the adults. It was slamming the door open and closed, and once it saw me, it started going faster. That is so fucking scary to think about. Like, imagine something just staring at you, and then it looks at you and it starts slamming. Flash forward to 2021. In December of 2020, there was an incident that caused me to be depressed, and I was home all the time by myself. I was 15 at the time, so I was in the kitchen about to fix myself something to eat till I got this dark feeling telling me to get out of the house. Now, I looked down at the hall and it got really dark, so I ran outside. I prayed and felt way better. Ever since then, I felt like someone was watching me every time I was at my grandparents' house. Now I'm going to get to my recent sightings. Around fall of 2021, I was in the added-on part of the grandparents' trailer, and I looked outside and saw an orange-red looking person. They had no knees, calves, and no head. It reminds me of like the zombies on Left 4 Dead. I don't know why. It looked like a corpse to me. It was just walking, so I opened the door thinking it could have been my grandfather, and nobody was there. How could you confuse that as your grandfather?
Does your grandfather just not have a head, knees, or calves? Like, what? That's just not normal. Like, I'm sorry. Like, what?
Yeah, no, that makes absolutely no sense, but whatever. 2022, my grandparents got a new trailer, but in the same spot. Then again, I'm there by myself every day. Ever since we started staying there, I get this feeling of dread. It's mostly my grandmother's room, so I avoid going in there all the time. Me, my mom, and my little sister have been seeing this lady with a long white dress. The lady in white. Out of the corner of our eye. And when it's not that entity, it's the shadow one. Okay, so today I was in the kitchen and the trailer is now flipped. So where the kitchen is now where the added-on bedroom was. I looked out and seen the orange-looking thing again. But I saw the whole body this time, and it looked as if it was gliding. It spooked me. Usually I'd be like, oh, it's a bird. What?
Apparently, this guy does not know what a bird looks like either, or something. Oh, it's just a bird? That looks like a human? Okay.
Yeah, no. You either don't know what a corpse looks like, or you're really confused, because first it's your grandfather, and now it's a bird. I'm confused. You're confused, bro? I'm confused. But this time I started shaking and almost cried. I took 30 minutes to calm down and I got back up and went to the kitchen again. And I saw another one, but this one was all black with white eyes, standing there in the exact same way as the other one, gliding. This house is by an old abandoned home, and one my close neighbor passed, so I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but I'm scared to go back home. I told my grandma, and she told me to just pray. What do you all think? It sounds like your grandma knows something she's not telling you.
I was about to say, like, that's very suspicious. Like, oh, if you just pray, you'll be fine. I don't know. That's just, it was far enough, like, out, but, like, so weird. That's, like, almost, like, not believable weird.
So I actually looked through the comments of this one. And apparently he's lost a lot of family members since they've been encountering all this shit. So in the comments, of this post, he said, so someone had said, I don't know about the white eyes, but the black, how do I put it? Just keep your eyes open. Make sure nothing bad happens. I mean, if you're being constantly watched. That was the comment, which kind of confused me, but whatever. And the OP had commented saying, you're scaring me. Plus, 4 people I knew passed this year, and it's only March. Yeah. All right. The next one is from Intrepid-External 622. I saw my grandma. The only thing is that it was years after she died. Back when I was in 2nd grade, I was dealing with the death of my grandmother. I was really close with her, so the loss of her hit me really hard. Eventually, the pain had got to be too much, and I asked for some help. That night, I woke up in a cold sweat, with my cover half pulled off me. I rubbed my eyes and looked around my surroundings. At the end of my bed, above my door, I saw my grandma hunched over. It looked like she was floating in water as her hair was flowing all around her. I pulled the cover back over my head and fell asleep. I brought it up to my dad in the morning, and he said my mom saw the same thing a month earlier.
That's crazy. Like, I don't know if that's, like, a bad sign. Like, maybe he's just seeing her, but I don't know. I don't know what to think of that one.
I just think it's, like, crazy. So, like, my family, they all had dreams of Ashton, and I have never had one, which is partially why I don't necessarily believe, because apparently they've all had this dream of, like, a really bright light and like Ashton's just standing there, and it was like their best, like their favorite like interpretation of him. So like my big sister, he was like a little kid, and like I think my dad, he was, I think just Ashton. I don't know too much about what dreams they actually had, but I've never had one. So like to see this and then to have it like validated by your mom a month earlier, I think I would shit my britches, dude. I wouldn't be able to do it. I'd be like, okay. Now, that is all for today's episode. If you liked the video, please like it. If you did not like the video, comment down below and tell us why and what we can improve on. And we already know we can improve on the mic, so don't even bother mentioning that because we're already working on it. Now, if you really like the videos, please subscribe. So, yeah, we will see you guys next time. Peace!